When you think of Easter, your first thoughts might naturally turn to the colorful eggs, playful bunnies, and the joyous celebration of Jesus' resurrection from the dead. These traditions and symbols have become iconic markers of the holiday, bringing joy and excitement to people around the world. However, if you associate Easter only with these outward expressions, then you've only begun to scratch the surface of a much deeper, far-reaching truth that lies beneath. The true essence of Easter extends beyond the surface-level celebrations, pointing to a profound, eternal reality that speaks to the very heart of human existence. Easter is not merely about a historical event where a man rises from the dead. No, it is the story of a cosmic event, a divine act of victory that spans the entire history of humanity. It is a victory that altered the course of our fate forever, breaking the chains of sin and death, and offering redemption to all who believe. This victory wasn't an accidental or sudden development, it was part of a divine strategy set in motion long before the foundations of the earth were laid. In fact, as the Apostle Paul reminds us in Ephesians 1 verse 4, God had a plan for us long before creation itself. He chose us, in Him before the creation of the world, to be holy and blameless in His sight, in love. This divine plan, which began before time itself, culminates in the event we now celebrate as Easter, a moment that forever changed the course of human history. Easter is far more than just a historical event, it stands as the culmination of a grand redemptive plan that was conceived in the eternal mind of God long before time began. This plan was not a spontaneous idea, but a deliberate, perfect strategy that unfolded throughout history with unwavering precision. The prophecies spoken in the Old Testament were not mere vague predictions or distant hopes, they were intricate threads of divine purpose, carefully woven together to form a tapestry of revelation that would one day be fully revealed. This divine masterpiece reached its breathtaking climax with the moment of the empty tomb on the first resurrection morning. When we observe Easter, we don't merely commemorate an ancient miracle. Rather, we celebrate a victory, an eternal victory that reverberates through every age and generation. This victory, which transcends the bounds of time, is more than just a remarkable event in history, it has shaped the very foundation of faith itself. Easter's significance extends far beyond that single moment in the past, reaching into the present and into the future. It stands as the promise of the ultimate restoration of all things, a promise that continues to unfold with each passing day, affirming the hope that, just as Christ was raised from the dead, all things will one day be made new. As we pause to reflect on Easter today, we come to understand that this story is not just about a singular event in history, it is about a living and breathing hope that continues to shape our lives. At its core, Easter speaks to the reality that Christ's resurrection is not just a moment we remember from the past, but the very foundation of our faith in the present and the surety of our future with God. It stands as the cornerstone of our present hope and the unshakable promise of an eternal life that awaits us. Let us embark on this journey together, tracing the story from the early prophetic whispers heard within the sacred courts of Jerusalem's temple, all the way to the glorious proclamation of the angel at the tomb, "He is not here, He has risen, just as He said," Matthew 28 verse 6. This declaration was not only a message of victory over death, it was the announcement of the fulfillment of God's promises and the beginning of something far greater. As we move through this sacred narrative, it becomes evident that Easter is much more than just a holiday marked on the calendar. It is an invitation to rise again, not merely in body, but in every aspect of our being, in faith, in hope, and in love. Easter beckons us to experience a new kind of life, a life that transcends the grave, a life that finds its power not in our own strength, but in the resurrection power of Christ Himself. Through His victory, we are invited to rise up, to live with renewed purpose, and to be a reflection of the same love and grace that conquered the darkness. Easter is more than just a day on the calendar, it's a divine invitation, calling out from the empty tomb to every heart that is open and willing to listen. The very essence of Easter is captured in the triumphant declaration from 1 Corinthians 15 verse 54, "Death has been swallowed up in victory." This proclamation echoes through time, signaling the end of death's reign and the beginning of a new, eternal reality. If you've ever wondered why this day fills the hearts of believers with such boundless joy and unwavering hope, stay with us until the very end. What you are about to discover might transform your understanding of Easter in ways you never imagined. As we embark on this journey together, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can join us in delving deeper into the profound truths behind these timeless Bible stories. Today, we are about to explore something truly extraordinary: the story of Easter Sunday, a resurrection that didn't just change one moment in history, but forever altered the course of humanity. The resurrection of Jesus Christ is the pivotal event that redefined what it means to live, to die, and to be eternally redeemed. Let's uncover how this moment in history continues to reverberate with significance, reshaping the future of all who place their trust in Him. As we find ourselves standing at the very threshold of this sacred and transformative story, we do so with hearts full of awe, having glimpsed the eternal plan of divine love, a plan that spans from the dawn of creation to the suffering of the cross. And now, we arrive at the very heart of Easter, the pivotal moment when death itself was conquered. But this wasn't a victory achieved through dramatic force or overwhelming spectacle. No, death was undone in a quiet yet infinitely powerful act of divine authority. It was a holy reversal that would forever change the course of history and eternity. The sorrow that once seemed final on the hill of Golgotha did not have the last word. The story didn't end with a lifeless body sealed in a borrowed tomb. Instead, that still, solemn moment became the doorway to something far greater, something glorious. What had been hidden in the depths of God's eternal design now began to unfold in time, with unstoppable purpose. The resurrection was not a spontaneous miracle, it was the unveiling of a promise spoken before time began, now breaking forth with light and life. It marked not an ending, but the astonishing beginning of a new creation, where hope rises, faith is renewed, and love reigns eternal. This divine unfolding began on a morning unlike any the world had ever known. It was not heralded by thunder or lightning, nor was it marked by grand spectacle or noise. Instead, the silence of death was quietly, yet powerfully, broken. The world remained unaware, going about its routine, oblivious to the fact that the greatest turning point in all of history had just taken place. In that hushed moment, something eternal shifted. It was the third day since Jesus of Nazareth, teacher, healer, and the one his followers had called Messiah, had been cruelly and unjustly sentenced to death. Condemned by the religious leaders of his own people, ridiculed by the crowds who once welcomed him, and nailed to a rugged Roman cross outside the city gates of Jerusalem, Jesus had endured unimaginable suffering. His broken, bloodied body was taken down in sorrow and laid in a borrowed tomb, a place that seemed to signify the end of hope. A heavy stone was rolled across its entrance, and Roman guards were stationed there to ensure no one disturbed the grave. For those who had walked with him, listened to his words, and believed in his promise, despair settled in with a chilling finality. Their dreams of a coming kingdom were buried along with the body of the one they believed would bring it to life. That dark silence of grief stretched on for 3 long days, days filled with confusion, sorrow, and a sense of abandonment. Everything they had hoped for seemed to vanish in the shadow of death. But even as their hearts ached and their faith wavered, something far greater was at work, something beyond their comprehension. The dawn of that third day was not just the start of a new morning, it was the beginning of new life, the quiet explosion of resurrection power that would change the world forever. But while the world assumed that hope had been buried for good, heaven was already moving. What appeared to be the end was, in fact, a divine interlude, a sacred, pregnant pause before a glory so profound it would resound through the ages. The silence of the sealed tomb did not mark God's absence, rather, it was the quiet stillness that precedes a sunrise, the hush before history itself is rewritten. While men mourned and enemies celebrated, heaven prepared to unveil the most stunning truth ever revealed to humankind. Then, in the early hours of the third day, as the first golden rays of sunlight crept over the hills of Judea, the impossible unfolded with heavenly precision. There was no blaring trumpet, no thunderous shout, just a trembling of the earth, a divine quaking that signaled something extraordinary. As Matthew 28 verse 2 records, the earth shook, and an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and rolled the stone away, not to let Jesus out, but to let the witnesses in. This was not the work of mortals. No soldier dared interfere. No hand of man disturbed the grave. It was the power of heaven itself that moved the stone, that pulled back the veil of death and revealed the beginning of resurrection life. The tomb, once a symbol of finality and grief, now stood open, empty, and radiant with meaning. Inside, the burial cloths remained behind, not in chaos, not discarded in haste, but folded with care, as though time itself had paused to acknowledge the holy mystery. Those linen wrappings, once soaked in sorrow and wrapped around a lifeless body, now lay still and untouched, a quiet declaration that death had not had the last word. Like a whisper from eternity, they bore witness to the truth: Jesus Christ had risen, just as he said. Death was defeated. Hope was alive again. The Gospel accounts reveal a profound truth often overlooked in the grandeur of the resurrection story. It was women Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome who were the first to arrive at Jesus' tomb in the quiet of the early morning, Mark 16 verses 1-2. Their hearts were heavy with sorrow, and their hands carried spices for a final act of devotion. These women had watched the crucifixion unfold with shattered hopes, and yet, in the face of despair, their love drew them to the tomb. They came expecting to anoint a lifeless body. What they found, however, was a scene beyond comprehension. Instead of a sealed tomb, they found the stone rolled away. Instead of silence and death, they encountered a messenger of heaven. As Matthew 28 verse 3 describes, the angel's appearance was dazzling, his face like lightning, his garments radiant and white as freshly fallen snow. He was seated atop the very